Perfect. Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of our candidates here this evening for the position of Vice President, Charities and Communities of the Oxford Student Union. My name is Eva, and I'll be the moderator of this hustings. So, to begin, round one. In this round, we'll hear from each of the candidates in the following order, starting with Mary, then moving on to Anatina, and then Gabriel to finish. Each candidate will answer the same question and will have up to 2 minutes to respond. So to begin, Mary, why are you the best candidate for Vice Presidents of Charities and Communities of the Oxford Student Union? Tell us more about what you can bring to the Student Union and what your main policies and objectives are.
Right. So I worked for 3 years in the broader world before returning to uni. My jobs included working at various nonprofits, including think tanks in the US and Europe. And there I helped across a range of activities, which included fundraising and public relations. Additionally, I was production manager on a film set. And in that capacity, I was in charge of a team, as well as assisting the producer with managing finances. So I have real-world experience across that skill set. My objective is to build a stronger sense of community among the clubs and societies and the student union. As part of this, I would like to draw interest into these communities from the outside, which has the potential to increase financial support, while also allowing students to make connections in and give back to a wider community. For policies, my policies are to try to support local businesses while helping them engage with the student community. For example, I would like to explore local businesses providing space for student events through a centralized system, possibly managed by the SU. And to increase accessibility to sport, I propose liaising directly with Sports Fed to address student needs during pandemic recovery. In the interest of declaration on that, I'm currently captain of the Pistol Club, and as such, I am currently liaising with Sports Fed on a weekly basis and have become very aware of increasing student needs or different student needs in the context of the pandemic. And then I would also encourage a refreshers fair targeted at second-year students who might not have had a chance to explore clubs and societies during that last year.
Thank you. Sorry, just to clarify, I should have clarified it before. I think at 30 seconds, I'll give a visual cue to tell you that you've got 30 seconds left. Sorry for that chat that I had to send then. So now moving on to Anatina. Why are you the best candidate for Vice President of Charities and Communities of the Oxford Student Union? Tell us more about what you can bring to the Student Union and what your main policies and objectives are.
Hi everyone, my name's Anatina. I'm a third-year geographer at Mansfield College, and I think I'm the best candidate for VP Charities and Communities because I can use my experience campaigning at both a uni and college level to bring about urgently needed change. To start with a bit about me, I'm a climate justice campaigner who believes that the university, as an institution with a huge amount of power, has a responsibility to do its bit in making a more just city and a more just world. But at the moment, it's far from meeting this responsibility. In my first year, I joined Oxford Climate Justice Campaign, where we were campaigning for the university to divest from fossil fuels, which it agreed to in 2020. However, because colleges are separate to the uni, many colleges still have fossil fuel investments. That's why my first commitment is to lobby for college-level divestment. As well as divestment, I'd also campaign for all colleges to commit to decarbonise with 2030 targets. I've succeeded in campaigning for this in my college, Mansfield, so I have a lot of ideas of strategies to get this done. My third commitment is to campaign for the university to commit to decolonise curricula, not just by tokenistically adding some authors to reading lists, but by thoroughly engaging with how to decentre Eurocentric ways of seeing the world. My fourth commitment is to empower students by making it easier and more fun to get involved with charities and campaigns across the city. My fifth commitment is to make an effort to bridge the town and gown through an action plan, including increasing student involvement in the community and getting the university to tackle homelessness and the wider housing crisis. Finally, my sixth commitment is to ensure the Careers Service offers sustainable careers. If you want to hear more about these individual commitments, then please do get in touch and check out my social media channels. Thanks.
Thank you. So finally, Gabriel, why are you the best candidate for Vice President of Charities Communities of the Oxford Student Union? Tell us more about what you can bring to the Student Union and what your main policies and objectives are.
Thank you. My name's Gabriel and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a second-year lawyer at Mansfield. As a first-generation immigrant and as a estranged student, I understand what it feels like to be part of a minority group and face difficulties that result in you feeling excluded from the wider student community. More importantly, I understand the struggle that comes with being vulnerable and feeling powerless. As such, my policies focus on the community spirit at this university by working with SU campaign groups such as DISCAM, LGBTQ+ CAM, CRAE, Class Act, and so many more, and lobbying the university to ensure groups can come together and access funding and support if needed. Reducing inequalities between the colleges. I have plans for supporting estranged students, suspended students, increasing accessibility for students with disabilities, and setting up a centralized gender expression fund for gender non-conforming individuals, and so much more. In addition, by sitting on various committees, I will advocate for sustainable policies across the university and Oxford community. I will advocate for the university to cut ties with both fossil fuel and mining industries, as well as ensure that living wage is paid both to staff and external contractors with your colleges. In short, I believe I'm the best candidate for this role because I'm dedicated to ensuring that these difficulties and systemic barriers are torn down so that previously silenced groups can get a chance at reaching their full potential. I have personally experienced these challenges at this university and I don't want anyone else to go through. And I've consulted with students from all colleges to find out what would make this place a better university. This student community deserves more and I'm willing to fight for it.
Thank you. So moving on to round two now. For round two of this evening's hustings, each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond to individualised questions regarding their manifesto pledges. Candidates will be questioned in reverse order. Gabriel, Anatina, and then Mary. So to begin, Gabriel, your manifesto is divided into 5 subsections and approaches issues at both student level and Oxford more broadly. I'd be interested to know which part of your manifesto will you be most excited to start a project on and why?
I think it's difficult to rank them because I think they're all really important in their own right. I think the first thing that I'm going to try and do is basically try and set up as many centralized funds as I can for various things such as societies, people who are estranged. Whilst there's an estranged budget, there's also an issue with students that are estranged and suspended. They don't have access to college facilities. They don't have access to any form of at least for many of the colleges that I spoke to, they refuse to offer to be a guarantor for students that have to live in Oxford, because obviously if they're estranged, they can't really go anywhere else. So I want to focus on that the most, as it's a personal issue to me in its own right. But I think I treat all of these with the same level of respect and dedication because they're really important to me in general.
Thank you. So moving on to Anatina. Your manifesto is largely a manifesto of climate justice. I'd like to know, what is the university's current stance on decarbonisation at college level? And from your experience at Mansfield, how would you get colleges on the path to carbon net zero by 2030? What is your strategy?
Thanks for that question. So the university committed last year to reach carbon neutrality by 2035, but that target only covered the central university. So individual colleges, many of them don't have any strategy at all. In my own college, we went through passing motions through the JCR and MCR and then having meetings with college and basically lobbying that way, and we managed to do that. And then we managed to set up a working group, which meant that there was a formal body within the college which would continue that work year on year. So it wasn't just reliant on student campaigners. It's now a part of that level in college. So the main thing I do is to try and get that level of governance in each college, because I think unless we have working groups and paid sustainability positions in colleges, then the student campaigning, it can't be long term, because we need like long term support to reach these targets. So that's the thing that I'd focus on initially, I think.
Perfect. So finally, Mary. Policy in your manifesto is approached through 3 avenues: support for local independent business, support for clubs and societies, and supporting outreach to student-run charities. I'm interested to know again how exactly you might enact, say, the discounts or reward cards for students' use in local businesses. What strategy would you use to enact this particular policy?
My first approach would be obviously to build a bridge with those businesses. We can't do anything without them anyway. The incentive would be to help attract students into the businesses to spend money. That's the to provide support that way, and that it also is why I suggested feeding in the idea that businesses could start making it easier for students to host events to using their space. So for how I would enact that, the first step would be to use my prior experience of reaching out to businesses, which I as donors, and just talk with them.
Thank you. So finally, round 3. Round 3 proceedings will be much like that of round 2. Each candidate will be posed individual questions relating to their manifestos, and they will each have up to 1 minute to respond. At 30 seconds, I will give a visual cue. We will proceed in forward order this time. So beginning with Mary, I'd be interested to know, looking ahead, what would be your main priority as Vice President Charities Community? And is this your driving passion for the role? As a final note for each one, if you were to describe your manifesto and policy stance in 1 word, what would it be?
Sorry, first of all, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Mary, I'd be interested to know, looking ahead, what would be your main priority as Vice President, Charity and Community? And is this your driving passion for the role? If not, what is?
My main priority would be to help the role be a role by a student for students, to help make student lives easier. And that is my main passion. I have a very precise example, which is from my time as tech officer and I'm the vice president for the Oxford Filmmaking Foundation. We have access to quite a few funds that are available, but people don't know about it. And it has made me aware that there needs to be a better system for people to know what is available to them as students. And that is my main passion.
Great. So Anatina, moving more away now from what is the predominant theme of your manifesto, climate justice at Oxford, I'm interested in your subsection entitled Town and Gown. And I'd like to know more about how you will transform the Oxford space, which you call predominantly a university space, to be more suitable and inclusive of non-student or university-affiliated residents.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, this is something that ever since I got to the university, people talk about this divide between the town and gown, and it's kind of just said as if it's just a given feature of the university that you kind of accept when you get here. But when I was thinking about what I wanted to change, I was thinking, well, what can we actually do to address this so it's not just this given feature of the uni? So one thing is that the central city is made up largely of colleges. And I think the college spaces, like huge college grounds, should be more accessible to non-university residents, because this city should be a city for us students, but it should also be a city where there can be an actual community that goes beyond just the university. So that's why I've put in my manifesto that I want to support the work, this really important work that's already going on to tackle homelessness, and ensure that the university is supporting that work and the colleges are, to the extent that they can. And then also just explore, perhaps through a consultation, how can we make this university more accessible and start bridging that. So I'd really, this is also something I'd really love to listen to everyone's thoughts on.
Thank you. Thanks. So finally, to end our hustings today, we'll be hearing from Gabriel. I'd like to take a closer look at the section in your manifesto that tackles the hostile environment that estranged and suspended students experience whilst at university here in Oxford. What practical work would be involved in getting colleges closer to estranged students? How do you intend to enforce this policy at ground level?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? You cut out.
Oh, yeah, of course. Gabriel, I'd like to take a closer look at the section in your manifesto that tackles the hostile environment that estranged and suspended students experience whilst at university here in Oxford. What practical work would be involved in getting colleges closer to fully recognising and supporting estranged and suspended students? How do you intend to enforce this policy?
As an estranged and suspended student, I'm not a suspended student, but I'm an estranged student, and my college wife is a suspended student as well. So I've had like secondhand experience of what issues she's facing and what other issues people around the university are facing when they have to be suspended and they're also estranged. I think the main important thing is that the colleges, each individual colleges should recognize them as still being a student, in terms of they're still a member of that community. They're being treated as though they've been kicked out. They are like strangers to the colleges, even though they are still students. They're only taking a year out. Most of the time it's either forced or they have to, because they are dealing with issues regarding mental health, financial assistance, all that. So it's not fair to exclude them when they're already struggling enough. In terms of practical approaches, I will talk to individual JCR and MCR presidents and ensure that the Constitution is written so that that suspended students are able to be on site for academic and fun, like societal reasons, as well as.
Thank you. Sorry, that was the minute was up. Sorry. Thank you, Gabriel. And thank you all. I'd like to thank all the candidates for being here today, pushing and promoting their manifesto and policy pledges. Voting opens on Monday the 7th of Feb at 8 AM GMT, and it is open until Thursday the 10th of Feb at 6 PM. So I think we can end the recording there.